Single dad CEO asks his maid to pretend to be his fake girlfriend. Unexpectedly, she'd steal his heart. I need you to pretend to be my girlfriend. 1 month. $50,000 up front. The dish in Lisa Grace's hand slipped slightly under the stream of warm water. She turned slowly, droplets glistening on her fingers, her eyes wide. I'm sorry, what did you just say? James Cole stood across the kitchen, his suit immaculate, his face unreadable. The morning sun streamed through the windows, casting a golden light behind him, but nothing about him felt warm. You heard me, he said, tone businesslike. It's a professional arrangement. 1 month, you pretend to be my girlfriend. Lisa grabbed a towel, trying to steady herself. Mr. Cole, I'm your housekeeper. I make your son's lunch. I fold your socks. I'm not this. You're intelligent, discreet, and not prone to drama. Most importantly, no one likes you, trusts you. She blinked at the mention of his son. I don't bring just anyone around him, James added more quietly. And I don't have time to find someone else. Lisa's heart tugged at the thought of the little boy, sweet, vulnerable Noah, with his drawings and quiet questions. He had grown attached to her quickly, and maybe she had too. But why do you need a fake girlfriend? She asked, voice softening. There's a corporate event next week. The board will be there. Some of them are traditionalists. They don't trust a single man to lead a family-first brand. You're a widower, Lisa said. They think that means I'm unstable, vulnerable. I've already declined 2 arranged introductions from shareholders. 1 more refusal, and they'll start pushing for a vote. Lisa stood frozen, towel clutched to her chest. And you think bringing me in, parading me around will fix that? I don't parade, he said flatly, then added, you'll attend events with me, smile, make conversation, nothing more. I'll draft a contract. You'll be paid in full. $50,000. Enough for Jamie's heart surgery. Enough to stop the calls from hospitals. Enough to give him a chance. Lisa swallowed hard. I don't belong in your world, Mr. Cole. Maybe that's exactly why they'll believe it. The refrigerator hummed. The clock ticked. Her head spun. I need time to think, she whispered. James nodded. I'll need your answer tomorrow. That night, Lisa sat at the tiny desk in her apartment. Bills spread across the surface, a worn folder containing her brother's medical records in her lap. 16. Congenital heart defect. No. Insurance. Be a fake girlfriend for a month. No touching, no real intimacy. Just play a part. But could she keep her heart out of it? She thought of Noah. How he'd fall asleep beside her during story time. How he'd smile when she braided his hair like he said his mom used to. Then she thought of James, cold, closed off, and yet there had been something different in his voice today. Not warmth, maybe, but hesitation. Humanity. The next morning, before the sun had fully risen, Lisa stepped into the kitchen. James sat at the counter with a cup of coffee, already dressed. I'll do it, she said. He looked up, one brow raised. The girlfriend thing, she clarified. Just for a month. I want everything in writing. Boundaries. Payment, duration. Of course, he said calmly. And one more thing. Yes, I'm not changing who I am. No red lipstick, no fake flirting, and I won't laugh at boring jokes. He let out something, halfway between a sigh and a chuckle. Noted. She crossed her arms. This is just a role, Mr. Cole. He met her gaze. Of course. They shook hands. Neither of them could have known how many lines that handshake would blur or how much pretending would begin to feel dangerously real. Lisa stood awkwardly in front of the 3-panel mirror, shifting from one foot to the other as the tailor adjusted the hem of her dress. This fabric drapes beautifully, the stylist murmured. Soft ivory, elegant, understated. James sat nearby, arms crossed, silently observing. The boutique looked like something from a dream or a film Lisa had no business starring in. She smoothed her hands over the dress again, still not recognizing the woman staring back at her. "Is this really necessary?" she asked. Over her shoulder. James nodded. "The event is formal. You need to look the part." She turned back to the mirror. The dress hugged her frame modestly, flaring slightly at the waist. Her blonde hair had been twisted into a simple chignon. She looked older, sharper, like someone with control. "Do I pass as a CEO's girlfriend now?" she asked with a dry smile. James didn't return it, but his voice was quieter. "You always did. This is just polishing." The ballroom of the luxury hotel sparkled with chandeliers and quiet wealth. Lisa stood beside James at the entrance, hand resting on his arm, heart thundering. Inside, violins played, champagne flowed, and conversation danced in polite tones. Executives and board members mingled beneath the glow of golden lights. The moment they entered, heads turned. Lisa felt them like spotlights. She took a breath and lifted her chin. "You're doing fine," James murmured without looking at her. They stepped further into the room, and Lisa reminded herself to smile, to breathe, to play her part. James leaned slightly toward her. "Be yourself. The calm, observant, kind version. That's the one they'll trust." Strangely, the words steadied her more than the heels she'd practiced in all week. "Miss Grace, is it?" A well-dressed man approached with a firm handshake. "James has been very discreet. How did you two meet?" Lisa smiled politely. "At the house. I was working there. One of those unexpected turns life sometimes throws at you." Laughter rippled through the group. A woman in a silk gown tilted her head. "So, you weren't born into this world?" "Not even close," Lisa replied with a graceful chuckle. "Though knowing how to clean a kitchen does come in handy before hosting a dinner party." James choked slightly on his champagne, covering it with a cough. Lisa shot him a mischievous glance. "And what do you do, Miss Grace?" someone else asked. "I'm hoping to teach again, art and literature, but right now I'm focused on what matters most: family, health, people." There was a beat of respectful silence. Then James's voice, quieter, behind her. "She's more qualified than most." Lisa turned her head. Their eyes met. The room continued buzzing around them, but James kept looking at her long after the conversation moved on. Later, needing air, Lisa stepped out onto the balcony. The city stretched far below. Lights and steel, cold and endless. The dress, the hair, the polite laughter. Inside, it all felt distant from the girl who used to read by flashlight to her little brother during power outages. She felt a small tug at her hand. "Noah," she gasped, kneeling quickly. "What are you doing here?" "Noah brought me a handmake," Noah said, pointing toward a security guard nearby. "Daddy told him to." Lisa looked up to see James standing inside, watching them, one hand in his pocket, his face unreadable but softer, tired, human. Noah leaned in close. "Are you going to stay?" Lisa smiled gently. "For tonight?" "Yes." "No," he said, voice serious. "I mean always. Are you going to be my mom now?" Her breath caught. She opened her mouth, but no answer came. Before she could speak, James stepped onto the balcony. "Noah," he said quietly. "Time to go." The boy hugged her tightly, then trotted over to his father. James said nothing, just watched her. And for the first time, Lisa saw it. Something breaking beneath all that steel. A flicker. She turned away before her heart could believe it meant something. The charity gala was held in an old museum-turned-event space. Downtown with glass ceilings, ivy-covered walls, and a string quartet playing softly in the atrium. Guests wore diamonds like casual accessories, and donated five-figure checks between sips of champagne. Lisa stood beside James in a floor-length navy dress, her blonde hair styled in soft waves. Her heels were low and manageable, but her nerves were anything but. "You don't have to speak much tonight," James said, handing her a wine glass. "Just stay beside me. Smile when necessary, and please, no red wine." She looked at the pale liquid. "So, I don't trip, don't speak, and don't stain the dress. Got it. Anything else?" James blinked, caught off guard by her tone. "I didn't mean it to sound cold, but it did," she said quietly, eyes on the glass. Before he could respond, a man in a gray suit appeared, his voice filled with recognition. Well, if it isn't Lisa Grace." Lisa turned, startled, then smiled warmly. "Thomas." James stiffened as she stepped forward to hug the man. The embrace lingered, just a second too long. Thomas looked like someone pulled from the pages of Lisa's old life. Athletic, polished, confident. "It's been years. What are you doing here? Don't tell me you're actually running in these circles now." Lisa laughed, that light, effortless sound James had rarely heard from her. "Not really, just tagging along as a plus one." Thomas gave James a passing glance, but his focus stayed on Lisa. So did hers. They talked easily about old professors, mutual friends, a closed-down bookstore they both loved. Lisa leaned in as she laughed. She touched Thomas's arm once without thinking. James watched from a distance, something tight building in his chest. Later, Lisa found him alone at the bar, swirling his second glass of scotch. His jaw was tense. "Hey," she said gently. "I was looking for you. You seemed occupied," he replied, not turning to her. "That was Thomas, an old friend," she said, confused by his tone. "We haven't seen each other in years." Clearly, he muttered. "You two seemed eager to make up for lost time." She frowned. "Are you upset?" James finished his drink. Of course not. Why would I be? I thought this was supposed to be pretend." "It is," he snapped. "So maybe you should remember that." The words hit harder than he expected. Lisa stepped back, wounded more than angry. "I was just being polite," she said softly. "Then be polite with someone else's reputation," he said, turning away. She did not follow. In the days that followed, James grew cold and distant. He spoke only when necessary. Left early, returned late. Lisa kept to her chores, pretending not to notice the shift. But Noah did. "Daddy's grumpy," the little boy said one night as Lisa read him a story. "Did he break something?" She smiled, brushing his hair back. "Maybe just his brain." She laughed, but her chest ached. Late one night, unable to sleep, Lisa went to the kitchen for tea. Her mind kept circling the gala, trying to understand why she suddenly felt guilty for laughing with an old friend. As she opened the cabinet, her hands trembled. Instead of tea, she sank into a chair and buried her face in her palms. She had never cried in that house before. "Lisa." She looked up, startled. James stood in the doorway, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, his expression different, softer, like he had not slept either. "I didn't know you were still awake," she said, quickly wiping her face. The tears betrayed her. "Anyway," James walked over and held out a folded handkerchief. Real, cotton, monogrammed, still warm from his pocket. She hesitated, then took it. "I wasn't fair to you," he said quietly. "At the gala." Lisa shook her head. "You don't have to explain. I get it. I overstepped, and this whole thing is weird." He knelt slightly, meeting her eyes. "You didn't overstep. I did. I let something personal cloud a professional arrangement." She searched his face, waiting for more. But James stood up, gave a faint nod, and turned to leave. Lisa sat alone, clutching the handkerchief, still damp with her tears, and something she was no longer sure she could hide. Not from him, not from herself. Rain pattered softly against the tall windows of the coal estate, a gentle rhythm that filled the quiet hallways. Lisa sat cross-legged on the living room rug, a giant sketch pad spread before her. Colored pencils scattered around like confetti. Noah sat across from her, his brow furrowed in concentration as he carefully drew a lopsided tree. "That's actually pretty." "Good," Lisa said, nodding thoughtfully. "You gave it personality." Noah grinned. "It's a sad tree. Because it's raining." "Or tree," she said, dramatically. "Should we give it a friend?" Noah picked up a blue crayon. "Maybe a dog." From the doorway, James stood silently, watching. His hand rested lightly on the door frame, his phone forgotten in his palm. He had come down to ask about a missing file, something trivial, but what he saw rooted him in place. Lisa's soft laughter, Noah's quiet joy. The scene looked natural, like something out of a life he used to imagine before. Everything turned to ash. He left without saying a word. In the evenings, Lisa began reading to Noah before bed. Not children's books, but little stories she remembered from her own childhood. Folktales, poetry. Her voice was calm and steady, and James found himself lingering in the hallway outside the boys' room, just out of sight. One night, Noah asked, "Can you stay for a little while after the story?" Lisa tucked the blanket around him. "Sure. Can you be here tomorrow, too?" "I'm not going anywhere." The answer was simple, gentle, but it lingered with James long after the hallway lights dimmed. A week later, a storm rolled in, unexpected and violent. James was in his office when he realized the time. Noah should have been home by now. He pulled out his phone to call the driver when the front door burst open. Lisa stumbled in, hair soaked, clothes clinging to her, and Noah in her arms, wrapped in her jacket, wide-eyed but safe. James rose instantly. "What the hell were you thinking?" he barked. Lisa stood frozen in the foyer, dripping onto the hardwood floor, her arms still around Noah. "The roads were flooding," she said, breathless. "The driver never showed. I waited as long as I could, but the school was closing." "And so you walked?" he interrupted, his voice rising. "With my son in a storm?" "He's not just your son," she snapped, then immediately regretted it. Silence. James stepped forward, yanked off his suit jacket, and without another word, draped it around her shoulders. Lisa flinched slightly, more from surprise than cold. "You could have called," he said, quieter now. His voice wasn't angry anymore, just tired. "I didn't have time." The signal kept dropping. He looked down at Noah, who yawned in her arms. "Go get warm," James said, his voice gentler now. "I'll take him." But Lisa shook her head. "I've got him." Their eyes met. For a moment, neither moved. The storm outside raged on, but inside it was eerily still. James stepped closer. His hands moved slowly, first adjusting the jacket on her shoulders, then brushing a damp strand of blonde hair from her cheek. Lisa's breath caught. They were close now. Too close. Her lips parted slightly. So did his. The air between them shifted. Electricity. Hesitation. Longing. Their faces leaned in, and then James pulled away, a step back, a wall. "Rebuilt. Get changed," he said softly. "You'll catch cold." And just like that, he turned and walked away, leaving Lisa standing in the foyer, dripping, trembling, and unsure which part of her had been soaked more, her skin or her heart. The attic was quiet, thick with dust and forgotten years. James rarely went up there, but a broken heater had sent him digging through old boxes labeled in Julia's handwriting. He opened one, expecting holiday decorations. Instead, he found a leather-bound photo album tucked between two faded books. Julia's high school keepsake. Inside were neatly arranged ribbons, notes, ticket stubs, and then a photo. Julia smiling in her graduation gown, her arm around another girl, slightly shorter with pale blonde hair and a familiar smile. Lisa. James stared at the photo, breath-catching. Why hadn't Lisa said anything? Why hadn't Julia? That evening, he waited in the kitchen. Lisa came in humming, a pile of folded laundry in her arms. Lisa, he said, voice flat. She paused mid-step. Yes, he held up the photo. She froze. Would you like to explain this? Her arms lowered. We were in the same class, she said quietly. Friends, kind of. I didn't think it mattered. You didn't think it mattered, he repeated, his voice sharper now. I wasn't hiding it. I just didn't know how to bring it up. James placed the photo on the counter. What about the accident? Were you there? Her eyes widened. Then she nodded. I was walking home from work. I saw the crash. I ran to the car. Julia was still breathing. I called 911. I stayed with her until her voice broke. James stepped back like she'd hit him. And you never thought I should know. I didn't want to open old wounds, Lisa whispered, eyes brimming. I didn't want to be part of your worst memory. But you are, he said. You watched her die. Then you walked into my home pretending it was all coincidence. I never pretended. I care about Noah and you. Save it. James snapped. You're here because you felt guilty. That's all. This was a performance. Lisa flinched. That's not true. He ran a hand through his hair. What was the plan? Get close to the widower you couldn't save. There was no plan, she said, voice shaking. I just wanted to help. I never meant to. To what? He interrupted. Fall into my life like you belonged in it. Silence fell. Rain tapped against the windows. Lisa's voice cracked. I should have told you. I was scared that once you knew, all of this would disappear. He didn't respond. You think I stayed because of guilt? No. I stayed because your son made me feel like I mattered. Because you looked at me like I was more than my past. Because this cold house started to feel like home. James clenched his jaw, still avoiding her eyes. She wiped her tears, breath shaky. I'm sorry for not telling you, for caring too much, but I won't stay where I'm not wanted. She turned, walked to the door. Rain poured. Outside, steady and cold. Noah's asleep, she said softly. Tell him I didn't say goodbye because I knew I wouldn't be able to. She stepped out without an umbrella. The rain soaked her instantly, and James didn't stop her. Didn't call out, didn't move. He stood, alone in the kitchen, wrapped in the silence she left behind. And for the first time in years, he realized he wasn't mourning Julia anymore. He was mourning someone still alive, someone who had just walked away. The house was too quiet. It had been 3 days since Lisa left, but to James, it felt like a lifetime. The air inside the estate hung heavy. No laughter, no footsteps, no clinking of dishes or soft humming from the kitchen, just stillness. He walked through the halls like a ghost, pausing occasionally outside Noah's room, where soft music played as the boys slept. Alone. James had told himself this was for the best, that things had gotten too close too fast, that her silence about Julia was unforgivable. But none of those words felt true. Now, Noah's drawings were piling up on the fridge. One every morning, a house with 3 people, a stick-figure woman with long yellow hair, smiling. Lisa, James had whispered the first time he saw it. The boy never asked where she went, but he kept drawing her like his memory refused to let go, like his little heart already knew lost too well to ask about it out loud. That afternoon, James stepped into his office with a purpose. It was time to clean. Time to let go of what needed to be let go of. Julia's things kept like a shrine. The dried bouquet from their anniversary. The perfume bottle she had left on his desk. He moved slowly, reverently, placing items into a box labeled Keep Safe. On the top shelf of the bookcase sat a framed photo of their wedding. He reached for it, hesitating only slightly, before lifting it from its place. But as he pulled the frame forward, it caught on something. An envelope wedged behind it. A small cream-colored envelope aged by time. His name was written on the front. James. His heart slowed. He opened it with trembling fingers, sliding out a folded sheet of lined paper. Julia's handwriting. He would recognize it anywhere. My love, if you're reading this, I guess it means I'm gone. I'm sorry. I never wanted to leave you with more pain. But if you ever find this, it means you've made it this far. And I'm proud of you. There's something I need you to know. Something I never told you because I didn't think you'd believe it mattered. Do you remember the girl with the yellow umbrella in our senior year? The one who helped me when I twisted my ankle in the rain. That was Lisa Grace. She was quiet, kind, didn't have much, but she had this light in her that felt safe. I only spoke to her a few times, but she stuck with me. I remembered her. If someday your path crosses hers again, and if she still has that light, don't push her away because of me. I don't want to be the reason you stay alone. Forever. Let yourself love again. Let someone else love you the way I know you deserve. If that person is Lisa, hold on to her. You'll know why with all my heart. Julia. James stared at the letter for a long time, unmoving. The room blurred. Then the dam broke. He sat down heavily in the old leather chair. The paper clutched to his chest. And for the first time since Julia died, he let the grief pour out. Not because he missed her, but because she had seen the one thing he hadn't, that his heart wasn't broken beyond repair. It had just been waiting for someone to help him remember how to use it again. And that someone was Lisa. The next morning, James walked into the kitchen where Noah sat at the counter with a bowl of cereal and another drawing in his hands. He looked up. Daddy. James knelt beside him. Hey, buddy. Are you sad? James hesitated. Yeah, I think I am. Noah handed him the drawing. This time it was different. Just two people, him and Lisa, holding hands. James looked at it for a long time. Then he stood up, kissed the top of Noah's head, and whispered, "Let's go. Bring her home." The road stretched endlessly beneath the dull glow of headlights, slick with rain, and winding through the sleepy edges of a town James had only ever heard Lisa mention once in passing. It was past midnight. The windshield wipers beat steadily against the storm, but they could not clear the haze in his chest. He had driven through darker nights before, but never with this kind of urgency. Never with his heart pounding like it was afraid it might be too late. Lisa's small rented house sat at the end of a narrow gravel road, modest and quiet, its porch light barely flickering. In the downpour, James parked the car, turned off the engine, and sat for a moment in the silence, listening to the rain and the doubt in his own head. Then he stepped out into the storm. Each drop hit him like a cold reminder of everything he had said wrong, everything he had refused to feel until it was nearly too late. The front porch creaked under his weight as he stepped up to the door. He could see warm light through the curtains. Someone was awake. He knocked once. No answer, then twice, louder. The door opened slowly, just a crack. Lisa stood there wrapped in a sweatshirt, her hair tied back, eyes wide in disbelief. James, he was soaked, shirt plastered to his chest, hair dripping, hands trembling. "I need to talk to you," he said, voice. She blinked. "You came all the way out here." "I had to." "Why?" "Now," she whispered. He stepped back slightly into the full force of the rain, then dropped to his knees right there on her porch, the wood beneath him darkening instantly with water. "Lisa," gasped. "James, what are you doing?" "I'm sorry," he said loud over the storm. "I was angry. I was scared. I told myself I didn't need you. But the truth is," he swallowed hard, "I thought my heart died with Julia. I thought I had nothing left to give. But you, Lisa, you woke something in me I thought was gone forever." Rain streamed down his face, mixing with something else. Tears. "You are not a replacement. You are not a mistake. You're not here because of guilt or coincidence. You are here because I need you. I choose you." Lisa's hand flew to her mouth, her breath catching. Her knees buckled slightly as she stepped out onto the porch, letting the rain soak her, too. "I don't deserve that," she whispered. "I lied." "No," he said firmly, standing slowly. "You protected your pain, just like I did. And still, you gave my son joy. You gave this cold house warmth. You gave me hope." She let out a shaky breath, and the fight in her eyes crumbled. "I was so scared to feel this," she whispered. "So was I," said. And then, without another word, she stepped forward and threw her arms around him, burying her face in his soaked shirt. He held her like he would never let go again. The rain kept falling, but neither of them noticed. "See," a tiny voice piped up from behind. They both turned. Noah stood at the bottom step, hood up, holding a stuffed bear in one hand. "I told you she'd come back," he said confidently. Lisa gasped. "Noah." James laughed, through the lump in his throat. "You brought him." "I said he wanted to see you," James replied. Noah climbed up the steps and hugged both of them, his arms barely reaching. "This is home now," he said matter-of-factly. "Right." Lisa looked down at him, then up at James. And for the first time in a long, long time, she didn't feel afraid to believe in a future. 6 months later, the house was filled with color. Not just from the sunlight pouring through the tall windows or the fresh flowers Lisa insisted on putting in every room, but from the laughter, the warmth, the life. James had never imagined this kind of quiet joy. No grand moments, just ordinary ones wrapped in peace. Lisa's art class met twice a week in the renovated guest house out back. Kids from the local shelter came in with worn shoes and tired eyes and left with paint-stained fingers and sketchbooks full of dreams. She taught them gently, the way she lived, without forcing, without rushing, just opening space. James watched her sometimes through the glass door as he passed. She would be kneeling beside a child, smiling, her blonde hair caught in a loose ponytail, hands smudged with charcoal and chalk. And in those moments, he was certain this was exactly who she was born to be. One morning, Lisa stirred slowly in bed, blinking against the soft light. The smell of something sweet drifted in. Syrup, butter, cinnamon. She sat up, confused. Then she heard giggles. She padded barefoot down the hallway in one of James's oversized shirts, her hair messy from sleep. As she reached the kitchen, she paused at the doorway and smiled. James stood at the stove in sweatpants and a t-shirt, flipping pancakes with all the concentration of a managing a billion-dollar deal. Beside him, on a stool, Noah stood on tiptoes, holding a spoon, his face covered in flour. "Careful," James said. "That's not how we whisk." "It is now," Noah laughed. The whole place tensed as if everyone were looking for a weakness. Lisa leaned against the door frame, arms crossed. "This is a crime scene." James glanced over his shoulder, grinning. "Morning." Noah beamed. "We're making pancakes." "I can see that," she said, walking over. "What's the occasion?" James turned off the stove and slid a pancake onto a growing stack. "No occasion, just a Tuesday. Lisa raised an eyebrow. You, Mr. Nicole voluntarily took a morning off work. He shrugged. Some meetings can wait. You don't get many Tuesdays like this. She leaned in and kissed the top of Noah's head, then moved to grab plates. As she passed James, she murmured with a playful smirk, "You know, the first meal I ever made here was the worst scrambled eggs in human history." He chuckled. "And I ate every bite." Why? He looked at her gently serious now because it was the first thing that made this house feel warm again. Her teasing faded. She set the plates down and without a word stepped behind him, wrapping her arms around his waist, resting her cheek against his back. He covered her hands with his. Later, the three of them sat at the table, pancakes stacked high, syrup dripping down the sides, laughter echoing off the walls. Noah told silly stories. Lisa fed him extra strawberries. James just watched them both, quietly grateful. Outside, the sky was clear, bright, a new day. Inside, the home he thought he had lost had finally returned. And just behind all that light, in a file locked away at the bank, sat a document James had signed months ago, a trust fund to cover Lisa's brother's medical care for life. She never asked. She would never know, unless he told her. But some love doesn't need to be spoken. Some love is made of pancakes and paintbrushes, Tuesday mornings, and second chances. The camera pulls back. The three of them, James, Lisa, and Noah, laugh around the breakfast table. Sunlight dancing across the walls. From the window, the world looks simple again. A narrator's voice, soft and warm. Sometimes love knocks when you least expect it. Fade to white. And just like that, a house once filled with silence found its voice again. Through laughter, healing, and a love that arrived when no one was looking for it. The quote from Kenos. Because sometimes love doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with a child's drawing on the fridge, a pancake on a Tuesday morning. A second chance you never thought you deserved, but got anyway. If this story moved you, made you feel something deep in your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Soul Stirring Stories, where we bring you emotional, healing, and unforgettable tales that touch the soul. Thank you for watching. See you in the next story, where hearts break, heal, and learn to love again. Subscribe now because your heart deserves stories like this.